Hello, everyone. Yes, yeah. Sorry that I haven't been able to come to class. I'm very rough. This is the worst sort of flu I've had for about 5 years, and I'm sort of obviously not in today, and I'm probably not going to be in on Thursday either. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to split this up into three videos, so they're not so long, but I think hopefully they should cover everything that we would have done in class, so you'll be able to do the homework and the the quiz. I think these assignments are not as difficult as some of the other assignments have been. Okay, so let's just dive in. I'm going to just try and keep these brief because I think if videos become too long and too intricate, they can get a bit sort of confusing. So let me just dive in on this topic, which, as you'll see, is elasticity. So fundamentally, what is elasticity? So we'll look at that in a moment. But it's as we know, as price goes up, quantity demanded goes. Remember, goes down. But the question is, how much does it change? And that measure of how much it changes, how much quantity demanded changes as price changes, is the concept of elasticity. And really, what we're looking at today is what's called price elasticity of demand. We won't look at other elasticities this week. Okay, so really, what we're going to be able to do in this chapter is we're going to define, calculate, and explain the factors that influence the price elasticity of demand. That's all we're going to do. We're not going to look at income elasticity of demand, cross elasticity of demand, or elasticity of supply. You may have a few questions in the assignments on that, but really what's important for you need to know for the exam is price elasticity of demand. And, there's going to be quite a few questions, so you're going to have to sort of know this in depth. So, so um, so you know that when supply decreases, the equilibrium price rises and the equilibrium quantity decreases. But does the price rise by a large amount and the quantity decrease by little, or does the price barely rise and the quantity decrease by a large amount? And that depends on the responsiveness of the quantity demanded of a good to a change in its price. And so now, this is where it gets a little bit sort of complicated because if I was sort of drawing it on the graph, I could sort of draw a demand curve where, sorry, I'm trying to think of it from your angle, where if the price went up, quantity demanded sort of remained a bit the same. Or I could sort of do it like this, where if the price went up, quantity demanded would really change. Um, um, so, here it says if the demand curve is steep, the price rises by a lot. If the demand curve is almost flat, the price barely rises. And so you think, oh, well, this elasticity or this measure of responsiveness must be the slope of the demand line. But that can be difficult because obviously it's not so much slope, because obviously if you change the units on the vertical axis or the horizontal axis, that would mean it would sort of mess things up. So somehow to get a measure of the responsiveness of quantity demanded to price, we need a measure that is independent of units of measurement. This will become clear in a second. I know that's a bit complicated, but that is what elasticity is. It's a unit-free measure of how quantity demanded in this case is responsive to changes in price. And this is what's called price elasticity of demand. It's a unit-free measure of the responsiveness of quantity demanded to changes in price. And so we can work it out. This is the overall idea of this. The price elasticity of demand is calculated by using the formula of percentage change in the quantity demanded over the percentage change in price. So it's a ratio between these two percentages. And so, and that gets even more complicated because obviously, if you think about it, let's say if you said, okay, if the price went from $7 to $6, what would happen to the quantity demanded? But there's also the problem if the price went from $6 to $7, what would happen to the quantity demanded? And it gets all very mathematically complicated, but actually those would be different. So somehow we've got to get an average sort of quantity demanded, and it's an average of the initial and the new quantity. So this all gets very complicated mathematically, but the real key is to know the equations and just to do them in a systematic manner. So let's imagine it. Let's just work this out. So let's imagine that we have demand for pizzas. At the original point, it's 2050, and the quantity demanded is 9 pizzas an hour. So, so it's 2050 and it's 9. So let's say we drop that price to 1950, and the demand increases to 11 pizzas an hour. So basically, what's happened is that we've had this fall in price and then a fall in quantity. Now, how do we make this into a units-free measure? We know that, yeah, that's the law of demand. Price has gone down, quantity demanded has gone up. But how do we turn this into a units-free measure? So what we need to do is we work out that the price elasticity of demand equals, we know the percentage change in quantity demanded divided by the percentage change in price. So we know that the elasticity between those 2 points, between the point of the 9 pizzas and the 11 pizzas, is, we can work out there's a 20% drop in price. That causes there's been a 5% drop in there's been a 20% drop in quantity demanded, or 20% rise in quantity demanded divided by a 5% drop in price. Because if you think about it, that's a pretty small drop in price. It's only $1. But now there's an extra 2 pizzas where there was originally only sort of 9. So that's quite a big change in quantity demanded. So the elasticity is 4, and as we'll see later on, it's actually -4. So that's quite a big change. Now obviously that elasticity is going to be different at different points in the line. And that's why we have to sort of do an average of those 2 points. So what we do is, and I'll show you the mathematics of it in a second. So by using the average price and average quantity, you get the same elasticity value regardless of whether the price rises or falls. So basically what we're doing, we're getting the elasticity between those 2 points, the original point and the new point, by finding the elasticity at the midpoint. And we'll show you the midpoint formula in a moment. Now, you always got to remember this is a negative value. As we do the mathematics, we'll see this is a negative value because price and quantity move in absolute directions. But maybe you've done mathematics and you know this concept of absolute value. Yes, it's a negative move, but we can say it was 4, even though in reality it's -4, because as price has gone down, quantity demanded has gone up. We can say the absolute value is 4. So let's think about it. We have various sort of ways we can think about this, and we're going to sort of look at those in a moment. But I think I'll sort of leave it there. You hopefully you've got the concept, that price elasticity of demand is responsiveness of quantity demanded to changes in price. It's always going to be moving in opposite directions, and it's something that we need to work out by developing what's called the midpoint formula that we'll look at in later videos. Okay, so that's it for the moment. I know that's just pretty much an overview, but we're going to get more into the technicalities of that in the next video.